I was labeled the neighborhood slut, but my husband's reaction shocked everyone. Hi Reddit, my name is Chloe and I'm 29 years old. I've been married to my husband Eric for 8 years and we have 2 beautiful kids together. On the outside, I'm sure our life looks perfect. We live in a gorgeous house in a quiet, affluent suburban neighborhood where everyone seems to have it all together. The kind of place where the lawns are always perfectly mowed, the kids ride their bikes in neatly pressed clothes, and the wives compete over who can host the most elegant dinner party. But let me tell you, my life here has been anything but perfect. From the moment we moved in, I felt like I didn't belong. The other women in the neighborhood all seemed cut from the same cloth, perfect hair, perfect makeup, and designer clothes that probably cost more than our monthly mortgage payment. They'd gather in little groups at the park or outside their houses, talking about PTA meetings, bake sales, and whatever their husbands were doing to make their families richer. I tried to join in a few times, but it was like walking into a wall. The way they looked at me, sizing me up from head to toe, made it clear that I wasn't one of them. I could feel their judgment every time I stepped outside. I'm not like them, I never have been. I'm not the type to spend hours doing my hair or to wear heels just to run errands. I'm the kind of mom who throws on a pair of leggings and a hoodie and calls it a day. I don't have the patience for PTA meetings or the energy to bake cookies for school fundraisers. I thought maybe that would be okay, that they'd accept me for who I am, but I was wrong. The gossip started almost immediately. I'd catch snippets of their conversations as I walked past, a laugh, a whisper, the words cheap or trashy hanging in the air, just loud enough for me to hear. At first, I tried to brush it off. I told myself they didn't know me, that it was their problem if they were so shallow, but it got harder to ignore when their words started spreading. One time, I overheard one of the moms at the park telling another that I didn't fit the neighborhood vibe. She said it like I was some kind of outsider who'd snuck into their perfect little world and needed to be dealt with. Another time, one of the women from down the street made a comment about how I let my kids play outside in hand-me-downs instead of dressing them in brand new clothes like hers. I could feel her eyes on me, judging the way I parent, the way I live my life. It wasn't just words either. They'd stop talking the second I came near, or worse, they'd exchange those fake smiles that didn't reach their eyes. Eric didn't seem to notice any of it. He's the kind of guy who can walk into a room and get along with anyone. Everyone in the neighborhood loves him. He's charming, successful, and always so polite. He's the kind of man people respect, and I think that only made me stand out more. It was like they couldn't understand why someone like him would end up with someone like me. I tried to talk to him about it once, about how I felt out of place and how the other women treated me. But he just told me not to worry about what other people thought, that I was too good for their petty drama. He didn't understand, though. He didn't see the way they looked at me, like I was some sort of threat to their perfect little bubble. I started to avoid going outside unless I absolutely had to. I stopped trying to make friends with the other moms and kept to myself as much as possible. But even that didn't stop the whispers. It was like the less they saw of me, the more they talked about me. I don't know why I cared so much. It's not like I wanted to be part of their clique, but being an outsider, being the one everyone judged and whispered about, it wore me down. I started to feel invisible in my own neighborhood, like I was just some character in their little soap opera, a punchline in their private jokes. Looking back now, I realize I was craving something, anything, to make me feel like I mattered again. I wanted to be seen, to be noticed, to be more than just the woman everyone whispered about behind closed doors. And that's where my story begins. I wish I could tell you that things got better, but they didn't. In fact, they got so much worse. What happened next changed everything, not just for me, but for my family and for the entire neighborhood. I'll never forget the way Eric reacted. It shocked everyone, including me. It didn't happen all at once. Looking back now, I can see how everything started to unravel. But at the time, it felt like I was just going through the motions. Eric had always been a workaholic, but over the past year, it seemed like he was more married to his job than to me. His long hours at the office left me alone with the kids most of the time, and even when he was home, he wasn't really present. He'd come in, ask how my day went in that distracted way of his, and then bury himself in emails or phone calls. I'd sit next to him on the couch, scrolling through my phone while he typed away, and it felt like we were miles apart. I told myself I was fine, that this was just part of being a wife and a mom. But deep down, I wasn't fine. I felt invisible, like I didn't matter anymore. I wasn't Chloe, the woman he used to look at like I was the most beautiful thing in the world. I was just Chloe, the stay-at-home wife who kept the house running while he brought home the paycheck. It was lonely, and I hated how much it was starting to eat at me. Then Jake moved in. I noticed him the day the moving truck pulled up across the street. He was tall, good-looking, with this easy confidence that immediately caught my attention. He didn't have a family with him, just a few friends helping him unload boxes. And it wasn't long before I learned from the neighborhood gossip that he was single. A bachelor, they called him, though the way the women whispered about him, you'd think he was some kind of scandal waiting to happen. At first, I didn't think much of him. He was just the new guy, someone I'd nod at politely if I saw him outside. But one day I was struggling to carry groceries inside while wrangling the kids, and Jake came over to help. He carried the bags to the kitchen, and I remember thinking how charming he was, how easy he made me laugh in the few minutes he was there. It was such a small thing, but in that moment, I felt seen. He noticed me in a way Eric hadn't in a long time, and it lit this little spark inside me. Over the next few weeks, Jake and I started running into each other more often. It was innocent at first, just casual chats when we were outside or a friendly wave across the street. But then the conversations got longer, the smiles a little warmer, the jokes a little more flirtatious. He'd compliment me on the smallest things, my hair, the way I handled the kids, the dress I was wearing, and every time I felt that spark grow. I told myself it was harmless. Flirting wasn't cheating, right? It was just fun, a way to feel good about myself again. But the more I talked to Jake, the more I looked forward to those moments. I started finding excuses to go outside when I knew he'd be around, taking out the trash, checking the mail, watering the plants I barely cared about. I'd catch his eye, and he'd flash me that grin of his, and for a little while, it felt like the world was brighter. One day when Eric was at work and the kids were at school, Jake invited me over to see the renovations he was doing on his house. I told myself it was innocent, that I was just being neighborly. But the second I stepped inside, I knew it wasn't. There was this tension in the air, this unspoken understanding that we were playing with fire. He showed me around, pointing out the work he'd done, but I barely heard him. All I could think about was how close we were standing, how his arm would brush against mine when he gestured toward something, how his voice sent shivers down my spine. Before I knew it, we were kissing. It happened so fast I barely had time to process it. 1 second we were talking, and the next, his lips were on mine, and I wasn't pulling away. I should have stopped it. I should have thought about Eric, about the kids, about what this could do to my family. But in that moment, I didn't care. All I could think about was how alive I felt, how wanted I felt, and how much I didn't want it to end. What started as one kiss quickly escalated. Jake pulled me into his arms, and I let him. His hands were everywhere, exploring me in a way that felt so different from Eric. With Eric, everything was familiar, predictable. But with Jake, it was new and exciting, and I couldn't get enough. We didn't even make it to the bedroom that first time. We ended up on his living room couch, tangled together in a frenzy of passion. It was reckless and wild and completely out of character for me, but I didn't care. For the first time in years, I felt alive. Afterward, I expected to feel guilty, but I didn't. Instead, I felt exhilarated. I walked back across the street to my house, my heart racing, my cheeks flushed, and for the first time in a long time, I felt like myself again. I told myself it was a one-time thing, a moment of weakness that wouldn't happen again. But deep down, I knew that wasn't true. Jake and I started seeing each other regularly after that. He'd text me during the day, and we'd arrange times to meet while Eric was at work. Sometimes it was at his house, sometimes in the backseat of his car, and once in a cheap motel on the edge of town. Every time it was the same, intense, passionate, and addictive. I couldn't get enough of him, and the thrill of sneaking around only made it more exciting. I started dressing differently, wearing outfits that I knew would catch Jake's attention. I spent more time on my hair, my makeup, my nails. All the things I used to do before I got married and stopped caring about myself. It wasn't for Eric, though. It was for Jake. Every time I saw the way he looked at me, like I was the only woman in the world, it made me feel like I was worth something again. The affair wasn't just about the physical connection, though that was a big part of it. It was about the way Jake made me feel. He made me feel wanted, desirable, important. He listened when I talked, laughed at my jokes, and made me believe, even for a little while, that I was more than just a mom and a wife. He made me feel like I was Chloe again. But as much as I loved the way Jake made me feel, there was always a part of me that knew it couldn't last. Every time I went home to Eric and the kids, I felt this tiny pang of guilt, like I was living a double life. But I pushed it down, convincing myself that what Eric didn't know wouldn't hurt him. Besides, it wasn't like I didn't love him. I did, in my own way. But what I had with Jake was different. It was intoxicating, and I wasn't ready to give it up. I should have known it was only a matter of time before everything fell apart. I was too reckless, too confident that I could keep my two worlds separate. And when it all came crashing down, the fallout was worse than I could have ever imagined. It wasn't long before the affair stopped being a secret. For a while, I thought I had everything under control. Jake and I had our routine down to a science. He'd text me when Eric was at work, or on one of his endless conference calls, and I'd slip across the street. We were careful, or at least I thought we were. I checked to make sure no one was watching before I went over, and we always kept the blinds drawn. But no plan is ever perfect, and one afternoon, everything fell apart. It was a Thursday, late in the afternoon. Eric was working overtime, and the kids were still at school. Jake had messaged me earlier, asking if I wanted to come over for a drink. I told myself it was harmless, just a way to break up the monotony of the day. But of course, it didn't stop at drinks. It never did. I had no idea anyone was watching. I thought I was being careful, but apparently one of the nosier neighbors, a woman named Karen, who always seemed to be peeking out her window, saw me leaving Jake's house. She must have figured out what was going on, because by the time I got back home, the damage was already starting to spread. I could feel it in the way the other moms looked at me when I picked up the kids from school that afternoon. Their stares lingered too long, their whispers a little too obvious. It was like they knew something I didn't. By the next day, the whispers had turned into full-blown gossip. Everywhere I went, I felt the weight of their judgment. The women at the park, who used to at least acknowledge me with polite smiles, now avoided me altogether. They'd huddle in little groups, shooting me sideways glances and murmuring behind their hands. Some of the bolder ones didn't even bother pretending to be subtle. I heard words like disgraceful and slut thrown around, and I knew they were talking about me. It didn't stop with the women either. The men started avoiding me too, refusing to meet my eyes when I passed them on the street. Even the kids weren't spared. Parents stopped letting their children play with mine, claiming they were too busy or had other plans. It broke my heart to see my kids confused and hurt, asking why their friends didn't want to come over anymore. I didn't have an answer for them. At first, I thought I could ignore it. I told myself it was just neighborhood gossip, that it would blow over eventually, but it didn't. If anything, it got worse. Everywhere I went, I felt like I was being watched, judged. The whispers followed me like a shadow, a constant reminder that I had been caught. I didn't know how much they knew, or if they had any real proof, but it didn't matter. In their eyes, I was guilty, and that was enough. Eric, of course, seemed completely oblivious. He was so busy with work that he didn't notice the way people stared at us when we went out together, or how they avoided making small talk with us at school events. I thought I had him fooled. I convinced myself that he was too distracted, too preoccupied, to pick up on the tension. I figured as long as he didn't know, I could ride out the storm. I could handle the gossip if it meant keeping my secret safe, but I was wrong. One evening after dinner, Eric did something he rarely did. He asked me to sit down and talk. There was something in his voice, something calm and measured, that immediately put me on edge. I sat across from him at the table, trying to act normal, but my heart was racing. I didn't know what he was going to say, but I had a sinking feeling it wasn't going to be good. What he said next knocked the wind out of me. He told me he knew. He knew about Jake, about the gossip, about the way the neighbors were treating me. He said he had known for months, but had chosen to keep quiet while he figured out what to do. My stomach dropped. All this time I thought I had been so careful, so clever, but he had seen right through me. He didn't yell, he didn't accuse me or demand answers. He just laid it all out, calmly and methodically, like he was presenting a business plan. He told me he had been watching, observing, and putting the pieces together. He knew about the afternoons at Jake's house, the excuses I made to leave the house, the changes in how the neighbors treated us. He even knew about the way Karen had been spreading the gossip, turning the entire neighborhood against me. I sat there stunned, unable to speak. I had expected anger, shouting, maybe even tears, but there was none of that. His reaction wasn't what I expected, and it shook me to my core. Instead of flying off the handle, he told me his plan. He said he wasn't going to divorce me. Not yet, anyway. He wanted us to stay together, to ride out the storm. He said he didn't care what the neighbors thought, but he cared about how this would affect the kids and their future. He wanted to protect them, to shield them from the fallout of my actions. His calmness unnerved me. I didn't know how to react. Part of me was relieved that he wasn't leaving, that he wasn't throwing me out or packing his bags. But another part of me was terrified. This wasn't the Eric I knew. The Eric I married was easygoing, kind, forgiving. This Eric was cold, calculating, and completely in control. He made it clear that things were going to change. He didn't spell out exactly what that meant, but I could feel it in the way he looked at me, in the way he spoke. He wasn't staying because he loved me or because he wanted to work things out. He was staying because it was practical, because it served a purpose. I wasn't his partner anymore. I was a liability he had to manage. When he got up from the table and left the room, I just sat there, staring at the empty chair in front of me. I felt hollow, like the ground had been ripped out from under me. I thought I had control over the situation, over him, over everything, but I didn't. Eric had been one step ahead of me the whole time, and now I was the one left scrambling, trying to figure out what to do next. After that night, everything in my life started to change, but not in the way I had hoped. Eric wasn't leaving me, but he wasn't forgiving me either. Instead, he seemed to slip into a version of himself I had never seen before, cold, calculating, and distant. It was like he had taken everything he felt about what I'd done, all the hurt and anger, and locked it away somewhere I couldn't reach. And in its place was this person I barely recognized. At first, I thought things might go back to normal. He said he wanted to stay together for the kids, to protect the family image, and I convinced myself that meant he still cared, that maybe there was a chance for us to work through this. But I quickly realized that wasn't the case. He didn't talk to me unless it was absolutely necessary, and even then, it was short and to the point, like I was a business associate instead of his wife. He started tracking everything I did. He didn't say it outright, but I could feel it. If I left the house, he'd ask where I was going, how long I'd be gone, and who I was seeing. At first, I tried to brush it off, telling myself it was just his way of making sure I wasn't doing anything stupid again. But then I noticed the subtle ways he was keeping tabs on me. He'd check the mileage on my car, ask for receipts for errands I ran, and even started looking through my phone when he thought I wasn't paying attention. It made me feel like I was under constant surveillance, like he didn't trust me at all, and honestly, I couldn't blame him. The financial control came next. Eric had always been the one to handle our money, but he'd never made me feel like I didn't have access to it. That changed almost overnight. He canceled the joint credit card I'd used for years and replaced it with a prepaid card with a strict monthly limit. He stopped giving me cash and told me to come to him if I needed anything extra. It was humiliating. I felt like a child asking for an allowance, and the worst part was, I knew it was his way of punishing me. Then there was Jake. Eric didn't yell at me about him, didn't even mention his name, but he made it clear that any contact between us was completely off limits. He didn't trust me to cut things off on my own, so he did it for me. He blocked Jake's number on my phone, deleted him from my social media accounts, and even made me swear I wouldn't speak to him if I saw him in public. He was methodical about it, like he wanted to erase Jake from my life completely, and he succeeded. Jake stopped trying to reach out, and after a while, I stopped expecting him to. But as much as Eric controlled my life, the neighbors controlled my world. The gossip didn't go away. It got worse. Every time I stepped outside, I could feel their eyes on me, their judgment like a weight I couldn't escape. They whispered as I walked by, snickering like schoolgirls, and I knew they were talking about me. Some of them didn't even bother hiding it. I'd see them leaning over their fences, pointing at my house like it was some kind of scandalous landmark. The isolation was the hardest part. The friends I had tried to make in the neighborhood were gone. No one invited me to playdates or book clubs or coffee mornings anymore. My kids felt it too. Parents stopped letting their children come over, and even at school, the other moms gave me the cold shoulder. It broke my heart to see my kids asking why their friends didn't want to play with them anymore, and I didn't have the courage to tell them the truth. Inside the house, things weren't much better. Eric barely looked at me. We shared the same space, but it was like living with a stranger. He'd come home, eat dinner in silence, and then retreat to his office or the guest room. That's another thing. He stopped sleeping in our bed. At first, I didn't notice because I'd fall asleep before him most nights, but then I started waking up to an empty bed and realized he wasn't coming back. He said it was because he didn't want to disturb me with his late-night work, but I knew that wasn't the real reason. He couldn't bring himself to be close to me anymore. I tried to reach out to him, to bridge the distance, but it was like talking to a wall. He didn't yell or argue. He just didn't engage. It was like he had shut down completely, and the more he pulled away, the more desperate I felt. I missed him. I missed the way things used to be, before all of this, when he still looked at me like I was someone he loved. Now, I didn't know what he felt about me at all. The worst part was the confusion. I didn't know where we stood. He wasn't leaving me, but he wasn't forgiving me either. He was just there, going through the motions. It was like we were stuck in this limbo, and I didn't know how to get out of it. I couldn't even tell if he wanted to work things out or if he was staying out of some sense of obligation. Every time I tried to bring it up, he'd change the subject or say we should focus on the kids. It was maddening. I don't know how much longer I can live like this. I feel like a prisoner in my own home, trapped between a husband who won't forgive me and a neighborhood that won't let me forget what I've done. I miss the way things used to be, when Eric and I were happy, when I didn't feel like the entire world was against me. I know I brought this on myself, but I don't know how to fix it. Eric won't touch me anymore. He hasn't since that night he confronted me. I don't know if it's because he's disgusted with me or because he just doesn't care anymore. Either way, it hurts. I miss the intimacy we used to have, the closeness, the way he used to hold me like I was the most important thing in his world. Now it's like I don't even exist to him. I don't know what to do. I feel so lost, so alone. Part of me wonders if it would be better if he just left, if he divorced me and put an end to this torture. But another part of me can't bear the thought of losing him, of losing everything we built together. I want to fix this, but I don't even know where to start. If anyone has been through something like this, please tell me what to do. I don't know how much more I can take. Update. Hello, Reddit. It's me again. I've been trying to figure out how to explain everything that's been happening, but it feels like the longer this drags on, the harder it is to put into words. Things with Eric have gone from bad to unbearable, and I honestly don't know how much more I can take. I feel like I'm suffocating in this life I've created for myself, and I don't know if there's a way out. Eric hasn't left me. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing anymore. On paper, he's still here. He lives in the house. He pays the bills. He even goes through the motions of being a husband and father. But in every way that matters, he's gone. It's like he's turned into this cold, detached version of himself, and I can't reach him no matter what I do. He barely speaks to me unless it's about the kids or something practical, and even then, his tone is so neutral it's almost robotic. He avoids me as much as he can, spending most of his time at work or locked away in his office. When he's home, it's like I don't exist. He doesn't look at me, doesn't touch me, doesn't ask how my day was. I feel like a ghost, floating around this house, invisible to the one person who used to see me more clearly than anyone else. And yet he hasn't left. He's still here, watching, controlling, punishing me in ways that are subtle but impossible to ignore. It's not just the way he monitors my movements or tracks our finances. It's the constant sense of judgment, The way he makes me feel like I'm always being evaluated and always coming up short. He doesn't say anything outright, but his silence is louder than any argument we've ever had. It's like he's holding this invisible weight over my head, and I'm constantly waiting for it to come crashing down. He's taken over every aspect of my life. I can't make a single decision without him knowing about it. If I want to buy something, I have to explain why I need it. If I leave the house, I have to tell him exactly where I'm going, how long I'll be gone, and why. He doesn't yell or accuse me of anything. He just asks questions, calm and matter of fact, and somehow that's worse. It feels like he's always testing me, waiting for me to slip up so he can remind me of what I've done. I've tried to talk to him about it, to ask him if we can find a way to move forward, but he just shuts me down. He says we need to focus on the kids, that they're what matters right now, and that everything else can wait. But I know that's not true. He's not interested in fixing anything. He's just here because it's easier than leaving. I think he wants me to suffer, to feel the weight of what I've done every single day, and it's working. As if that wasn't enough, Jake is still a constant reminder of my mistakes. He's moved on, of course. He started dating one of the neighborhood wives, Karen of all people. The same Karen who couldn't spread the gossip about me fast enough is now parading around with the man who was at the center of it all. It's like they're rubbing it in my face. Every time I see them together, it's like a knife twisting in my chest. They walk around the neighborhood like they own the place, smiling and laughing like they don't have a care in the world. I can feel the neighbors watching me, waiting to see how I'll react. I hate that they get to be happy while I'm stuck in this mess. I hate that Karen, who spent months tearing me down, now gets to act like she's better than me because she tamed Jake. The worst part is the humiliation. I can see it in the way the neighbors look at me, like I'm some kind of cautionary tale. They don't even bother hiding their disdain anymore. I hear the whispers when I walk by, the snide comments about how I got what I deserved. Some of them are bold enough to say it to my face, pretending it's a joke, but making sure I know exactly what they mean. I've become the neighborhood joke, the woman who ruined her life and her marriage for a fling with the guy across the street. I feel so trapped. The walls of this house feel like they're closing in on me, but I don't know if leaving would make things any better. Where would I go? What would I do? Eric controls everything, our money, our home, even my time. If I leave, I'll have nothing. And then there's the kids. I can't bear the thought of leaving them, of making them deal with even more upheaval because of my mistakes. They've already lost so much because of me, but staying feels impossible too. Every day I feel like I'm drowning a little more. The judgment from the neighbors, the coldness from Eric, the constant reminders of what I've done, it's all too much. I don't know how to move forward when it feels like the past is all anyone can see. I don't know how to fix this, or if it's even fixable. I miss the life I used to have, the person I used to be. I miss the way Eric used to look at me, like I was the center of his world. I miss feeling like I belonged somewhere, like I had a purpose. Now, all I feel is regret and shame. I regret what I did, the choices I made, the way I let my own insecurities and selfishness destroy everything good in my life. But no matter how much I regret it, I can't change it. And I don't know how to live with that. I've been thinking about leaving, about starting over somewhere new. Maybe it would be better to walk away from all of this, to give Eric and the kids a chance to move on without me dragging them down. But then I think about how much I'd miss them, how much I'd miss being a part of their lives, and I can't bring myself to do it. I feel like I'm stuck between two impossible choices. If I stay, I'll keep suffocating under the weight of this life. If I leave, I'll lose everything that still matters to me. I don't know which is worse. Reddit, I don't know what to do. Should I stay and try to endure the judgment, the coldness, the control? Or should I leave and start over, even if it means losing everything I have left? I don't know how to fix this, or if it's even possible to fix. I just know I can't keep living like this. Please, if anyone has been through something like this, tell me what to do. I feel so lost. Update. Hello, Reddit. I wish I could say things have gotten better, but they haven't. If anything, they've only gotten worse. I finally worked up the courage to confront Eric about our relationship. I couldn't stand the silence between us anymore, the way he acted like I didn't exist unless it was about the kids. I needed answers, even if I was terrified of what he might say. When I asked him where we stood, he didn't hesitate. He told me, cold and matter-of-fact, that he planned to stay married to me, but only for the sake of the children and his reputation. His words hit me like a punch to the gut. I knew things were bad, but hearing him say it out loud, in that detached tone, was a different kind of pain. He wasn't staying because he cared about me, or because he believed we could fix what was broken. He was staying because it was convenient, because leaving would be messier than staying. He told me that as far as he was concerned, our marriage was over in every way that mattered. He didn't want to rebuild what we had, and didn't see the point in trying. For him, it was about maintaining an image, about keeping the kids in a stable home, and avoiding the gossip that would come if we divorced. He said he wasn't interested in anything beyond that, and I realized, in that moment, that I'd completely lost him. Hearing those words felt like the final nail in the coffin of our relationship. I don't even know how to describe the mix of emotions I felt: anger, sadness, regret, humiliation. Part of me wanted to scream at him, to beg him to give us another chance, but I didn't. What was the point? He'd made up his mind, and nothing I said was going to change it. I walked away from that conversation feeling more alone than ever, and as if things couldn't get any worse, my attempts to reconcile with the neighbors have completely failed. I thought maybe if I reached out to a few of them, apologized, and tried to explain myself, they might give me a second chance. But I was wrong. They don't want anything to do with me. The few times I've tried to approach them, they've either ignored me or given me these polite, fake smiles that make it clear they're just trying to get away from me as quickly as possible. It's like I'm some kind of outcast, a stain on their perfect little community. No matter what I say or do, I can't escape the label they've slapped on me. And it's not just me who's suffering. My kids are feeling it too. Their friends' parents won't let them come over, and at school they've started noticing that they're being left out. My son came home the other day and asked me why no one wanted to sit with him at lunch. I didn't have an answer for him. I just told him it wasn't his fault, but I could see the confusion and hurt in his eyes. Knowing that my actions have caused them pain is almost unbearable. I've tried to tell myself that this will pass, that people will move on eventually, but I don't know if that's true. In a place like this, reputations are everything, and once they're ruined, there's no coming back. I took mine for granted, and now I'm paying the price. I don't know what's worse, the judgment from the neighbors or the coldness from Eric. Every day feels like a punishment, a reminder of everything I've lost. I've destroyed my marriage, my family's place in this community, and the future I thought we'd have. And for what? For a few moments of excitement, for the thrill of being noticed, for something I thought would make me feel alive again. It wasn't worth it. None of it was worth it. If you're reading this, please take my story as a warning. Don't take your marriage or your reputation for granted. Don't let your insecurities or your need for attention drive you to make choices you can't take back. And if you're living in a place like this, where judgment and gossip are part of everyday life, be careful. People here don't forget, and they don't forgive. I don't know what the future holds for me. I feel like I'm stuck in this limbo, unable to move forward or go back. All I can do is try to hold on for the sake of my kids and hope that someday things will get easier. But right now, it feels like I'm drowning, and I don't know if I'll ever come up for air.